The SSL Bus Compressor, the 4K, it's a legendary compressor and it does sound great. But those of you who've seen the channel before will know that I often like to kind of wade through the nonsense and use my ears as opposed to just doing stuff that people tell me. Now, before this video, I did a bit of research, actual research. I watched 6 videos on the SSL Bus Compressor, and all of them said you must use these settings and have this amount of gain reduction. And that's a problem for me because I don't think you can mix that way. I don't think you can do anything that way. I don't think that telling people to use these settings and nothing else is conducive to anything. You might as well just mix everything with presets. Nothing wrong with presets in general, but you're supposed to use your ears. I want to take a look at SSL bus compressors, 3 in particular, and just discuss why all of them are kind of a bit different and they do a different thing, and you can't just have a one-size-fits-all setting because music doesn't work like that. Let's check it out. So I've got 3 of my favorite SSL bus compressors here. I've got the SSL native one, which is great. I've got the Slate Digital one, the Virtual Bus Compressors FG Grey, and I've got the Brainworks, the Townhouse bus compressor. Now, they're obviously all different. I get that. The missing one here, I guess, is the Universal Audio one. I don't have that. But they all do something completely different. And the thing that you're kind of told you should do with this, so let's start from the beginning. The thing that people say you should do with the SSL bus compressor is bring the attack all the way up, bring the release all the way down, ratio at like 2:1. Some people say 4:1, some people, whatever, 2:1 tends to be the general consensus. And bring the high pass filter up a touch. Now, I just want to go through these 3 compressors because I've got the same settings on all of them. They're all at 2:1, and I've brought the threshold down so that I'm getting like 1 to 2 dB of compression, which is what everyone says you should do. But as you're going to hear, you can't just say that. Let's check it out. So I'm just going to flick through them and just kind of bring them in, bring them out, and just take a listen to them all. Okay, so there's a couple of things here. In the second half of that kind of chorus section that I'm just working on at the moment, we have a guitar and a sustained kind of lead guitar, and that drastically changes what all these compressors are doing, and there's a reason for that. So to me, the native one, the SSL bus compressor, I guess the kind of official one, it has a sound, but I can be more aggressive with that, getting like 4 dB of gain reduction. And it doesn't sound like it's doing as much as when I have 1 to 2 dB of gain reduction on one of the other ones. Let's just take a listen to this one, the SSL, compared to the FG Grey. So I'm just actually going to bring down the threshold to get a bit more compression. Now, side note, this threshold goes up to plus 20 dB, which I don't fully understand. This threshold goes up to plus 10 and this threshold goes up to 0. They're kind of relatively arbitrary, I guess, because if you're setting your threshold at plus 20, you're already in like severe clipping. There's going to be some sort of difference with bias and how these are all working. So I'm going to have to kind of sidestep that because there's no real way of like getting those all the same. But there is a headroom switch on the bus compressor on the Townhouse. I'm going to leave that. I digress. I'm going to get a bit more compression out of the SSL, and you'll hear that it's very transparent, or in terms of SSL compressors, is quite transparent. And you'll hear that when I get 4 dB of gain reduction or somewhere around that, this one, the virtual bus compressor, kind of sounds like it's doing more than this one does, even though it's getting less gain reduction. Have a listen. So the first thing to say there is that I'm getting about 4 dB of gain reduction, and I can't really hear much compression there. I can't really hear much change in the signal at all, dare I say it. it's kind of not squashing things, it's kind of fattening things up a little bit and bringing the sustain up in a great way. But I kind of feel like the Slate one is doing more at 1 to 2 dB of compression than this one is at 4. Have a listen. With this one, there's some definite like bringing together of the sound, and at 1, sometimes 2 dB. So I've got my high pass at 100 Hertz, and it's at 100 Hertz on this one as well, 101, sorry. And at this one, it's at 100 Hertz. All the settings are exactly the same, but I feel like this one's doing more. I feel like this one's doing less at higher gain reduction, which just kind of speaks to the fact that you can't have a one size fits all. You can't just say have it like tickling the gain reduction and it's going to completely change your life, because it's not. If we go on to this one compared to this one, I feel like this one is the most characterful. It's doing a bit more than the others. Whether you like that or not, you know, it's maybe a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, I don't know. But I feel like it's affecting the sound more, and you can't just say that on an SSL bus compressor you should use these settings. It doesn't work like that. Let's take a look at the Townhouse then. Have a listen, and then we'll compare it to this one. Yeah, so this one, it feels like it's doing more. But when we come into this section with the kind of sustained guitar, that all kind of goes out the window and we get a very different effect. So I'm just going to play this section and kind of go through the 3 different ones. And you're going to hear that whereas previously this one was doing kind of relatively little, this one was doing a little bit more, this one was doing even more. The gap kind of gets smaller and they do something completely different, because we're not just working on transient material now, we're working on something far more sustained. So when you have a vocal in there, it's going to change things drastically. So when I've got that sustained stuff in there, just take a listen to how much more compression we're actually getting from this one in particular. So it will go from the non-sustained version into the sustained bit. And that's because if you watch the meter, even though it's at the fastest release setting, it's not got enough time to come back down. It's always staying pinned at that 4 dB of compression. And even if we bring this up, let's just make it so we're apples to apples again. Let's try and get that kind of 1 to 2 dB of compression again. So this one, again, it can't release fast enough. It's getting absolutely slammed, not in terms of how it sounds, but in terms of like how much it's compressing and for how long. It can't release, so it's just continuously compressing. And that lead line may be a little bit loud and it's kind of triggering that compressor a bit more, but it's worth talking about. There's also an auto setting on this one and this one and this one indeed. So we'll have a look at that in a minute as well, because some people say that that is the golden setting, but let's find out. So let's go into the Townhouse as well. So the difference is far less on that one. Previously, when we're in the kind of transient section, shall we say, it's given us a decent amount of gain reduction and it's got a sound. But when we bring in that sustained section with the guitar, it's not changing as much as the other ones are. Now, whether that's down to the release, what that's down to, I don't know. But this has got a familiar sound and familiar release characteristics throughout the entirety of the program material. These two really changed quite significantly. So you can't just say, put that one setting on and it's going to work, because different emulations, different program material, everything is going to change. If you've got just one compressor that you're dealing with, forget the other two that we're comparing it to. Just by having a sustain section in there, it changes the release characteristics. It changes how much it's compressing and for how long by a massive amount. And for that reason, I don't think you can say, do this and it will sound great, because it doesn't always. Let's just be kind of completist about this, though. Let's go to our auto setting and just see. Oh, my auto button doesn't come on. Brilliant. Let's go to auto and just see what the differences are, because I think this is, I don't know, is this going to make them all more similar? Don't know. Let's find out. So let's turn all these off and then kind of flick through them again. And this is on auto setting, which a lot of people say you should use. Interesting. The auto setting seems to be faster than the fastest setting on this, because it's kind of releasing quicker. Just watch the needle. On the fastest setting, it's kind of staying up there and gradually coming down. On auto, it's coming down a bit faster. How very interesting. Yeah, so on that sustain section, it turns it all on its head again. So I think, if I remember right, the auto is kind of program dependent. So it analyzes, if that's the right word, it listens to what's going on, and it sets the release based on how loud stuff is, how quiet stuff is. That is just a completely different kettle of fish, though, because having stuff of the release on the fastest setting is not as fast as auto, which, I don't know, is that weird or is that cool? Not sure. One of the two. But that kind of makes the gap a little bit smaller to my ear. If we go for the transient section, all on auto, and just flick this one, this one, this one, they get quite similar. Yeah, I like it. So going to auto makes it all quite similar, I guess. But we started off with this one giving like 4 dB of gain reduction. Let's just aim to get all 3 of these at 4 dB of gain reduction. I think this one is going to be the most transparent, because it kind of was before, but let's find out. Okay, all at like 4 dB. I think I had this one on when I was altering that one, but I was just really looking at the meters to try and get that 4 dB, so it's relatively irrelevant. That's hard to say, relatively irrelevant. So all at the same amount of gain reduction, and the thresholds are going to be different. That one's up at past 0. This one's at -12. This one, where is it? Is yeah, relatively similar. Let's just go between them. I think this one's going to be most transparent. We'll find out. It still kind of sounds like it's not doing a lot, but tucking things in nicely. Interesting. That's interesting. At higher gain settings, I don't think I like this one as much as these two. These two are actually kind of fairly transparent at those higher gain reduction settings. This one maybe a little bit more so, but this one previously at lower gain reduction settings, it was quite colourful, but now it's not. Just because it's getting 4 dB of gain reduction as opposed to 1, it's not 4 times as colourful. It's still staying relatively transparent, but this one is not. This one is quite kind of vibey. One more time, just for the hell of it. Yeah, so interestingly, when we've got it set so that we get 4 dB of gain reduction in those transient sections, these two, this one and this one, stay at kind of 4 dB when we get that sustained guitar in. The VBC grey, that gets loads more gain reduction, even when it's on the auto setting. So the auto is kind of different to these two. How illuminating? I thought that would be kind of a cool test, because these are the 3 SSL 4K bus compressors that I've got that I kind of use. There is a Logic one as well, but that's just different because of the different settings on it. It's interesting how different they are. It's interesting how similar they are at some settings, and then when you get a little bit deeper, they go a little bit more different. But the crux of it is, if you watch someone who says you must do these settings on this plugin, I don't see any value in that. I don't see anything that is like, well, maybe I've got, even like the sidechain filter, if I've got a real bass heavy kind of track, or a upper bass heavy kind of track, I'm going to want to set my sidechain a little bit differently. If I've got real transient drums, then maybe I'm going to want to have the ratio a little bit higher so it chops off a little bit more. You can't say these settings are the settings to use. You have to use your ears. You have to use your eyes a little bit on the kind of gain reduction meters and understand how what you're seeing relates to what you're hearing. And most importantly, just do it yourself and try it yourself and find out what the golden settings for you are. Don't just work from someone else's golden settings, because they're probably not as golden as they think they are. I hope it's been useful for you. I'll see you again soon.